The Omnitrix was never supposed to choose Ben Tennyson. Let's be clear about that from the start. It was meant for Max Tennyson, experienced plumber, seasoned warrior, the responsible adult who actually know what to do with the most powerful weapon in the universe. Instead, it latched onto a 10-year-old kid who thought hero meant showing off and getting ice cream afterward. A cosmic mistake, a universal glitch, the wrong person at the wrong time. And yet, when Azmuth, the creator of the Omnitrix himself, I finally met Ben and saw what this mistake had become, he made a choice. He let the watch stay exactly where it was. Because Ben Tennyson did something that no chosen one ever has to do. He earned it. Not through destiny, not through prophecy, not because some ancient force decided he was special, but through choice, after choice, after choice, even when every single one of them cost him something. So let's talk about why Ben Tennyson isn't just a hero. He's a true hero. The kind that proves heroism isn't about being chosen. It's about choosing every single day to be better than you were yesterday, even when the universe is literally trying to kill you for it. Before we dive in, please join our journey and help us grow by subscribing to our channel. It's hero time. Summer vacation, a road trip with your grandpa and your cousin, and then a meteor crashes in the woods and you find a watch that turns you into aliens. For most kids, that's a fantasy. For Ben Tennyson, that was Tuesday. But here's what we forget when we remember that opening scene. Ben wasn't ready for this. He was 10 years old, cocky, impulsive, more interested in pranking Kevin 11 than saving the world. He treated the Omnitrix like a toy, cycling through aliens just to see what they could do, rushing into fights without thinking. And honestly, he was kind of insufferable. The original series doesn't hide this. Ben's a brat. He argues with Gwen constantly. He ignores Max's advice. He shows off. He makes terrible decisions that put people in danger. When Vilgax first comes for the Omnitrix, Ben barely survives, not because he's skilled, but because he's lucky. Lucky that Max is there. Lucky that Gwen has his back. Lucky that XLR8 is fast enough to outrun his own mistakes. This is not a chosen one. This is a kid in way over his head. And that's exactly why his story matters. Because the Omnitrix didn't choose Ben for who he was. It gave him the chance to choose who he'd become. And that choice? That's the through line of the entire franchise. Every series, every battle, every impossible decision. Ben Tennyson choosing to be a hero when he could have just as easily walked away. When the universe gave him every reason to give up. When the Omnitrix became a burden instead of a gift. He kept choosing, and that's what Grandpa Max saw from the very beginning. Remember, when Azmuth shows up in Secret of the Omnitrix? He's furious. This device, his life's work, is on the wrist of a child. A reckless, immature, unworthy child who treats it like a video game. Azmuth wants it back. Wants to give it to Max, the person it was always meant for. And Max, the man who's seen more battles than Ben's been alive, looks at his grandson and says no. Not because Ben's perfect, but because he's trying. Because in those few months since the watch landed on his wrist, Max has watched Ben throw himself into danger to save strangers. Watched him face down intergalactic warlords with nothing but alien powers he barely understands. Watched him make mistakes and learn from them. Max saw something Azmuth couldn't see yet. Potential. Not as a weapon, as a person. And he asked Azmuth to give Ben the chance to prove it. That moment? That's the thesis of the entire show. Ben Tennyson is a true hero, not because he was chosen, but because someone believed he could be. And he spent the next decade proving that belief right. Fast forward 5 years. Alien Force opens with a very different Ben Tennyson. The Omnitrix is gone. He's trying to live a normal life. He's older, quieter, trying to leave the hero thing behind. And then Grandpa Max disappears, and everything changes. This is where Ben's journey as a true hero really begins. Because up until now, heroism was kind of fun. It was an adventure. Yeah, it was dangerous, but Ben always had Max as a safety net. He had adults handling the real weight. Now, Max is gone. Gwen and Kevin are looking to him for answers. The DNA aliens are invading. The Highbreed are trying to purge the universe of impure species. And Ben Tennyson, 15 years old, still figuring out who he is, has to lead. The Omnitrix returns, but it's different now. It's not a toy anymore. It's a responsibility. And Ben feels that weight. Watch how he moves through alien force. He's more cautious, more strategic. He talks his way out of fights when he can. He listens to Gwen. He works with Kevin despite their history. This is growth, but it's the Highbreed War that really defines him. Because here's what that arc does brilliantly. It puts Ben in a position where violence isn't the answer. The Highbreed aren't just villains, they're a dying species, convinced that genetic purity is the only way to survive. Willing to commit genocide to preserve it. And Ben, he cures them. He doesn't defeat them. He doesn't imprison them. He uses the Omnitrix to rewrite their DNA, to show them that diversity isn't weakness, it's survival. He turns enemies into allies by refusing to see them as enemies at all. That's not something the original 10-year-old Ben would have done. That kid would have gone humongousaur and smashed until the problem went away. But this Ben understands that being a hero isn't about being the strongest. It's about finding the solution no one else can see. It's about believing people can change, because you changed. And then Ultimate Alien asks the hardest question of all. What happens when the hero becomes the weapon? The Omnitrix doesn't just transform Ben into aliens, it evolves them. It puts them through millions of years of simulated warfare to create the ultimate fighting forms. And Ben starts to realize these aren't just powers, these are people, sentient beings trapped inside the Omnitrix, forced to fight his battles. In The Ultimate Sacrifice, the sentient Ultimates actually rebel. They're tired of being weapons. They want freedom. And Ben has to face the fact that he's been using living creatures as tools. How many heroes would even ask that question? How many chosen ones would stop mid-battle and think, wait, am I the bad guy here? But Ben does. Because by this point, heroism isn't about power for him. It's about responsibility. It's about consequences. It's about looking at what you're doing and asking if it's right, not just if it works. And when he finally gets the true Omnitrix back, the one Azmuth perfected, he doesn't treat it like an upgrade. He treats it like a second chance. A chance to be the hero the Watch always needed, not the one it accidentally chose. Let's talk about what Ben Tennyson has sacrificed to be a hero, because this is where the difference between a chosen one and a true hero becomes crystal clear. Chosen ones get destiny. They get prophecies that say they'll win. They get magic swords and ancient powers, and the universe bending over backward to make sure they succeed. Ben gets consequences. He loses friendships. He loses relationships. He loses time. Think about Julie, Ben's girlfriend in Alien Force and Ultimate Alien. They care about each other, but Ben keeps disappearing, keeps cancelling dates, keeps choosing to save the world instead of being present, and eventually she leaves. Not because she doesn't love him, but because loving Ben means loving someone who's never fully there. That's the cost. Or think about his parents. For most of the series, they don't even know what Ben does. He's lying to them constantly, sneaking out, risking his life, and he can't tell them why. When they do find out, it doesn't bring them closer. It terrifies them. Because what parent wants their child to be the universe's first line of defense? Ben gives up normalcy. He gives up childhood. He gives up the luxury of being selfish. But the most devastating moment, the one that defines him more than any battle, comes in Omniverse during the Malware arc. Malware is a corrupted mechamorph who blames Azmuth for his condition, and in his quest for revenge, he kills Feedback. Not just defeats, kills. Feedback was Ben's favourite transformation, the one he relied on most, the one that felt like him. And watching Feedback die, watching part of himself be ripped away, breaks something in 11-year-old Ben. He takes off the Omnitrix, he quits. For years he can't even talk about Feedback. The trauma is so deep that even teenage Ben refuses to acknowledge it. And when he finally gets Feedback back, when he finally faces Malware again, he doesn't go for revenge. He goes for closure. He defeats Malware, but he does it to save others, not to avenge himself. That's heroism. Not power, not destiny, not even justice. It's choosing to carry the weight of your trauma and still show up for people who need you. It's looking at the worst moment of your life and deciding it doesn't get to define you. And here's the thing about Ben. He doesn't do this once. He does it constantly. In the Ultimate Alien finale, he's willing to let Kevin kill him if it means saving Kevin from himself. In Omniverse, he faces down Maltruant, a villain who can manipulate time itself, knowing he might erase himself from existence. In the reboot, he faces the Omnitrix armor's corruption, the temptation to use ultimate power even if it destroys him. Every single time, Ben chooses the harder path, the one that costs him something. Because that's what true heroes do. They don't win because the universe decided they should. They win because they refuse to stop trying, even when losing would be easier. So what does it all mean? Why does Ben Tennyson's story matter? Because in a world full of chosen ones and destined heroes, Ben represents something we all desperately need. Proof that you don't have to be special to do something extraordinary. You don't need to be born on Krypton. You don't need to be bitten by a spider. You don't need an ancient prophecy. You just need to care. And to keep caring even when it hurts. Ben's not the strongest hero in his universe. Vilgax is stronger. Kevin's got more raw power. Gwen's magic is more versatile. But Ben's the one who keeps showing up. The one who turns enemies into allies. Who sees people, not obstacles. Who believes that everyone, even Vilgax, even Kevin, even the Highbreed, deserves a second chance. Because he got one. The Omnitrix was never supposed to choose him. But it did. And instead of wasting that accident, Ben spent his entire life proving it wasn't a mistake. Look at the Omniverse finale. Ben's facing down Multruant, a time-manipulating villain who wants to reshape reality itself. And Ben doesn't win through power. He wins through connection. He calls on every ally he's ever made, every enemy he's redeemed, every person who believed in him when he didn't believe in himself. He wins because heroism isn't a solo act. It's a choice you inspire in others. Grandpa Max chose to believe in Ben. Gwen chose to fight beside him. Kevin chose to change because of him. Rook chose to trust him. Azmuth chose to let the watch stay where it didn't belong. Because Ben Tennyson proved something the universe didn't think was possible. That accidents can become destiny. That mistakes can become miracles. That an ordinary kid with an extraordinary tool can become the greatest hero his universe has ever seen. Not because he was chosen, but because he chose. And that's the legacy. Not the battles won. Not the aliens unlocked. Not even the world saved. The legacy is the choice. The proof that you don't need permission to be a hero. You don't need destiny to do the right thing. You just need to decide that someone has to, and then be brave enough to make it you. Ben Tennyson is a true hero because when the universe made a mistake, he turned it into a promise. A promise that kept him going through every loss, every sacrifice, every moment when giving up would have been easier. A promise that no matter how hard it got, he'd keep showing up, keep fighting, keep choosing. And that's why, when we think back on those summer nights watching this show, when we remember the kid who found a watch in the woods, we don't just remember a cartoon character. We remember what it felt like to believe that heroism isn't about being special. It's about deciding to be, and then doing it, again and again and again, until the universe has no choice but to recognize. This wasn't a mistake. This was always exactly where the Omnitrix was supposed to be, on the wrist of a kid who proved that true heroes aren't chosen. They're made, one impossible choice at a time. If you enjoyed this video, please join our journey and help us grow by subscribing to our channel. It's hero time.